Principalele teme abordate în cadrul conferinței de astăzi se leagă de cei 3 piloni de bază din cadrul unui proiect de transformare digitală. Acestea fiind zona de oameni, zona de procese și date și zona de tehnologie. Toate acestea susținute de o arie de identificare și de dezvoltare a unui framework de management al riscului pentru noile riscuri aduse de tehnologiile pe care le introducem în organizație. În ceea ce privește zona de oameni, ne uităm la întrebări legate de cum putem să recalificăm forța de muncă, ce activități pot să facă angajații după ce roboții vor prelua activitățile repetitive și cum putem să motivăm angajații să accepte schimbarea și să adopte noile tehnologii. În zona de procese de date, încercăm să identificăm care sunt acele soluții care pot să ajute la structurarea proceselor mai bine, la identificarea mai corectă a proceselor care pot fi automatizate, astfel încât să se obțină valoarea din automatizare. În ceea ce privește tehnologia, am adus în România principalii furnizori de tehnologie din acest domeniu. Vorbim de UiPath, Blueprint și Automation Anywhere, care își prezintă atât caracteristicile produselor, dar și planurile de dezvoltare către zona de inteligență artificială. Și iarăși dezbatem subiecte precum cum putem să scalăm automatizarea, ce schimbări trebuie făcute infrastructurii ca să poată fi scalată, dacă automatizarea poate fi utilizată în migrări mai mari de sisteme, dacă automatizarea ca și automation as a service este un răspuns pentru organizațiile care nu își dezvoltă intern capabilități sau nu vor să-și dezvolte capabilități interne și infrastructură. Beneficiile aduse de automatizarea inteligentă trebuie legate de obiectivele fiecărei companii. Dacă organizația își dorește să reducă costurile, trebuie să ne uităm la acele procese unde impactul automatizării va duce la reducere de costuri. Dacă își dorește să răspundă mai rapid cerințelor clienților, trebuie să ne uităm la acele procese aferente interacțiunii cu clientul. Și exemplele pot continua, fie că vorbim de procese interne, de back-office, fie că vorbim de procese de interacțiune cu clientul. Beneficiile pot să fie și la nivel de reducerea riscurilor operaționale sau legale, astfel încât automatizarea să se emuleze pe ceea ce organizația are pe agenda ei.
So welcome. I'm at the EY Intelligent Process Automation Conference in Bucurest. It's nice to chat with you. Yeah, the IPA market is really advancing, mostly today doing task automation, which is relatively short tasks, bursts of low-value activity that you can build a bot to automate. So the industry's, it's really a cross-business shared services opportunity right now. What does that mean? Well, that means it's the processes that every company has: finance and accounting, human resources, supply chain, contact center. This is where you have a lot of relatively low-value work that operates against a lot of older systems where a lot of that work seems to emanate from. So the countries that are really blazing on this now, as you might expect with any emerging software company, you have a lot of activity in the Americas, North America, in the US, and also EMEA in core areas, all across. Lagging somewhat are APAC and Latin America, but we expect that to advance. But the task automation that really has driven the RPA market to this point is really just the beginning for this category. One of the strong things about the architecture of these platforms is that they have central management to orchestrate a number of AI building blocks, from text analytics leveraging computer vision, leveraging machine learning, where you can externalize the decision management from the core RPA process development and use machine learning algorithms that may exist in cloud platforms. So this is where the category is going. Another interesting aspect of where it will go is that employees that are doing processes will at some point, and we think it's within 1 to 3 years, have their own personal robot. They'll have a digital assistant. And that will be one that they can interact with due to normal conversational intelligence, think chatbots, and really maintain and augment to fit into their personal work styles. This is really a strong integration of where RPA is today with conversational intelligence. So think decision management, machine learning to augment the very limited decision management that's in RPA tools today, and leveraging that broad orchestration capability. This is the future for this category, which will have competition. I mean, you're going to have hundreds of startups in conversational intelligence and machine learning. They're going to want to help build that digital assistant. But RPA has a good foothold, and it has that central orchestration, which I think is really critical. So how will this evolve, and what effect will it have on the workforce and, to some extent, society? So I just published a book called Invisible Robots in the Quiet of the Night. And the goal of that is to raise the level of attention and awareness about not only RPA, but virtual assistant and chatbot technology and machine learning. These are the software robots, if you will, that no one will ever see. They exist in data centers that no one will ever go to. But they're transforming the workforce, particularly in persona categories for work, such as cubicle workers, as well as coordinators, and certain areas of knowledge work that tends to support itself with a lot of repetitive activity. So what companies are going to have to do is not look at this as a series of point solutions, but look at what what does their workforce really look like in 5 to 10 years? What percentage of workers are going to come from the talent economy? What percentage of workers will be now collaborating with machines and require a different level of training, a different level of skill, and a level of change management? Because the thing that's different about this automation than previous ones is the rate of change, the rate of acceleration is really dramatic. And companies today in our research are really not prepared. These are some of the things we need to consider. The category is really accelerating. If you take the top 3 RPA companies, only one of which is public, but others have a value that is calculated by the investors coming in and investing in it, that the aggregate value of the RPA market just for those 3 top providers is $10–11 billion today. And it turns out that only a few miles from here, the most valuable one, UiPath, started up. Now these are companies that no one ever heard of 3, 4, 5 years ago that now are sitting in the pinnacle, in the cockpit of what's really an amazing new software market.
So I think it's really important that there be trust in artificial intelligence, because ultimately it's got to be trusted by a broader user group. So whether that's your employee base or your consumer user group. And so even the executive sponsors that need to provide funding for an AI project, if they don't trust it, you're going to find that you aren't getting the adoption rate, you're not getting the executive sponsorship that you need, and it's really going to slow down the pace and the ability for you to use AI in a more innovative manner. But it's also important that you really understand where it could go wrong. Where are the risks? Bringing a lot of people to the design table that can really be an effective challenger to say, what about if this was to happen or this? Because then what it'll do is it will have the developers think about those broader scenarios, many of which have maybe a very narrow experience to draw upon in developing those scenarios. And so that's why bringing in a much broader group to help build those risk cases can really help the AI to be designed to be much more able to function in that different variables. On the other hand, there is always going to be a portion of which AI does not have the ability to, be confident in its ability to predict a certain situation. And so, having the human operators that can then get involved in those use cases is always going to be required. I don't think it will be cost effective to develop AI that can deal with all use cases. So that's going to be important. Yeah, a lot of the, whether it's Stephen Hawking or Elon Musk, those that are, recognizing that they are, fearful of AI, usually are talking about general artificial intelligence, which is, an artificial intelligence which is expected to be able to generally operate across a wide spectrum of situations and cases, and really is starting to replicate the functionality that a true human could have. And those, right now, there's a huge debate. Some say it's 20 years away, some say it's 100 years away, some say it will never be possible. I do think that what is really important in their messages is that we have to be really conscious about where we use AI to make sure that we don't ever use it in situations of where we feel we cannot control it. So if we're putting it in a situation where we don't think we can control who can have access to it, because I'm actually more concerned right now about bad actors being able to use AI than I am AI itself actually going rogue. And so although I think those scenarios are important for us to think about as we develop AI, I do think we've got a lot bigger risks that are much more short term and could have, maybe a more narrow but still very big impact. I do think that it's really important that we put the right controls around the systems, and that we really ensure that the people who are developing the AI feel the responsibility of making sure that they're making decisions on where it's used, how it's used, the kind of oversight that it has, with a view towards their broader responsibility, that they are accountable, that they will feel accountable if something goes wrong, so that there's a strong, whether it's fines or penalties or just like so we have to be careful on one hand that we don't overreact to some of the failures of AI, but on the other hand, ensure that we recognize that it will sometimes fail. And it's more about how we react to those failures and how we ensure that they can be, it's kind of like cybersecurity. I look at cybersecurity, it's probably not cost effective that you can ever guard yourself from ever being cyber hacked. But if you are you able to detect it fast enough? Are you able to then respond to it and eliminate it and then do the right remediation and the repatriation? It's just looking at those 5 elements from an AI perspective as well. Yeah, a lot of the use cases I see right now in business are more on the lower risk spectrum. They are using more structured data. They're using more machine learning. There are some use cases now starting to move into using reinforcement learning, unsupervised learning, as well as some of the deep neural networks. So once you start getting into those applications, I think that's when it's really important that you really have a good understanding of what impacts it could cause. Because if it could cause a reputational damage if it was to fail, if it could cause a legal liability if it failed, a regulatory fine, then you may question whether or not you really want to move down the complexity spectrum or stay within the more structured supervised learning and machine learning. There's still a lot of applications that you can use that lower risk technology. And this is also the most, it's been around the longest. So it has the more controls, it has more testing, it has more data scientists that understand it and understand where the risk can manifest itself. What you're lacking right now across the whole use of AI is those business users that understand how the risk can manifest. So you do need to get those educated quite quickly. But if you had an educated business user and an educated data scientist, hopefully they would make the right decision as to, what type of AI can we use in this use case. There's a lot of use cases where you're trying to just develop insights around consumer behavior that maybe using a more complex algorithm is fine because the impact is really low. But you really need to understand that trade-off in order to make sure you match the right AI risk to the AI impact.